Hi everyone, I'm Carlyn Crowe with the Iowa DD Council, and we're here in the Capitol with Representative Josh Turek from Council Bluffs. And I'm sure that many of you have already heard about Representative Turek. He's a first-time legislator from Council Bluffs, and we have been talking to him about his role in the disability community, and he ran on a platform that talked about disability awareness, rights, and many other aspects that are important to the disability community. So we are thrilled to have him here as a guest on our Capitol Snapshot this week. And I have a bunch of questions, but I'm going to start out with, I'm going to throw you a curveball from what we talked about.
Sure, yeah, no worries.
And just, you know, compare for us a little bit. You are a three-time gold medal.
Two-time
gold medal.
Four-time Paralympian, two-time gold medalist in wheelchair basketball.
In wheelchair basketball. And here you are in the Iowa House as a first-time legislator. How does it compare? I mean, how can you compare?
Dramatically different. However, I do think that coming from high-level sports and from Olympic, Paralympic sports, I think was almost the ideal preparation for this kind of job. The discipline, the dedication, the hard work is exactly the same. The hours, strangely, are kind of similar too. And I think the ability to just work, keep your head down, and just tune out all of the external noise is something that I developed in sports, and something that is directly relatable to this position, just because there's an enormous amount of noise. Regardless of how you vote on every single bill, you're going to have 50% of the people that are going to say that was a terrible idea. And just being able to tune all that out and know what you're trying to do and who you stand for and who you are, and try to represent the best way you could. And that's what I did with when I represented in wheelchair basketball. I wanted to make sure I did that not only to win with basketball, but also to be a quality representative, to be an individual that people could look up to and say he represents, you know, whatever it's the disabled population, individuals with spina bifida, my community, the state, the country. I wanted to be a quality representative, and now I feel like I'm doing that, but representing in a much more meaningful way.
Perfect. And I liked how you said in your first floor testimony that you were competitive. And
yeah,
you like right. Competition.
That's correct.
So I think that's an important trait too.
Yeah, and truthfully, it really is an honor for me to be the first permanently disabled member of the Iowa House. It's meaningful, and change oftentimes comes slow, but we have to also recognize when we are making progress. And for example, now we have a ramp in the Iowa House in the chamber. And just yesterday, there was a young girl in a wheelchair that actually went down to the well and took a picture and used the ramp. And I didn't say anything to her or stop her, but as I saw her, I said, well, that's change. That's, even though that's on a micro level, that's progress. We're moving in the right direction.
Perfect. Well, tell us some other things about how it's going. You're 4 weeks into your first session, the 90th General Assembly.
Yeah.
How's it going, and what have you learned?
Oh, I learn something new every single day. How's it going? It's been an incredibly steep learning curve. The best way I can relate it is, honestly, it is like drinking out of a fire hose. It's like we've turned on the tap and there it is. You either sink or swim. But I like that. I'm really enjoying the intellectual challenge of this, of trying to familiarize myself with every single committee and subcommittee and bills, and trying to navigate that. The hours has certainly been an adjustment. Most days I leave the house at 7 o'clock. I get home by the time I do all the lobbyist events and everything else, normally around 9 or 10 p.m. And what's wild is, I think that, you know, those of you that have been paying attention more than just this session, we're moving faster than is probably usual. And for us having 39 new members, I don't think that is a positive thing for us to be moving quite so quick. But regardless, that's what we're doing. And so you do the best you can. And
I think you told me a little bit about some things that you're working on.
Yeah.
Tell us about some bills that may be coming down the pike that might be of interest to the disability community.
Sure. Well, directly, I'm doing a couple of bills on a couple of things. One is I ran on addressing the minimum wage and making sure we're taking care of our working class. I don't know if that will go anywhere, but I've put a bill out there that will match the minimum wage in Iowa to exactly what it is in Nebraska. Very meaningful, at least to my constituency in Council Bluffs. Related to the disabled population, actually, I think is going to be one of our few areas of positivity in this. I'm working on 3 bills at the moment. One is a bill that would mandate some level of disability education or awareness for every single K through 6th grade. I think that we have like Black History Month. I think a variety of issues that we are addressing. I think that it's very important for anti-bullying and again for disability awareness that even if it's a day or even if it's a week, that every single kid from kindergarten up through 6th grade is receiving some level of disability awareness education. So that's something that I've put forward. Another one that I'm putting forward here, it's currently being written by the LSA, is a bill that is going to put a state moratorium on any sort of Medicaid or state funding to go towards medical supplies, particularly catheters that contain any sort of cancerous carcinogens. We have DEHP, which is really decimating the disabled population. There was a study that was done up in Canada that was showing it was 6 to 28 times more likely to have a bladder cancer from individuals with disabilities that are using these catheters. There are plenty of other options available. This is strictly just a corporate greed issue because the non-cancerous containing carcinogens are slightly more expensive. And so that's something that I'm really looking forward and pushing through. And then my real baby, my dream project, which I'm spending so much time on, is this disability employment bill that I'm working on. Also, I'm kind of calling it a work without worry bill. Basically what it is going to do is raise the allowables so that we don't have this cliff for individuals to not be able to work. We've only got a 19% employment rate amongst individuals with disabilities in this state. And we have so many individuals that whether they're, bachelor's degree, master's degree, PhDs, they cannot work because they're terrified of losing what little health care they have from the state-run Medicaids. And so what I'm doing is my program would do away with the MEHP standard, I believe that we have, PD standard that we have, which is permanently individuals with disabilities to be able to be employed. We would replace that with the Colorado standards, which are so much better. That would allow an individual to make up to 430% of the poverty line. It would actually allow you to make up to $10,000 once you excluded, per month, once you excluded all of the things that you could deduct. It also would have almost no limits in terms of home ownership and also no maximum on a vehicle allowance as long as it was adaptive and you were using it. It would be a great bill. It would be fantastic. We would be able to employ, this 15-20% of the population that is not being able to work. And it's just a just bill and it's a common sense bill. And so I should have that at that LSA on Monday and hopefully get some sponsorship on that from some of my colleagues across the aisle. And who knows, we may, for any of you out there that are interested in coming in and sitting in a subcommittee or a committee and letting your voice be heard, because really the thing that I'm the most proud of being up here is being the only member of the disabled population. And we've had 15% of the population without a voice, without representation. And so it's really meaningful to me, and it's the things that I'm working on the most while I'm up here.
That's perfect. I was just going to close with what other tips could you give our advocates that we could do to help you pass that meaningful legislation and other bills that are on our docket that we'll tell you more about later?
The most important tip is us as legislators, we can't be your voice exclusively. We can amplify your voice, but we can't be the voice. And so it's really important for you to be engaged in public policy. Contact your legislators, particularly Republican legislators, since they have a trifecta right now. Contact the governor, contact your senator, contact your House of Representatives. These bills are going to be out there and moving, and in committee and in subcommittee, and quite possibly, I think we're going to have a straight up or down vote. I am going to need Republicans to not cross the aisle, because I think this is a bipartisan piece of legislation, but it's really, really meaningful. If you've got things that are happening to you that need to be addressed, issues that are affecting your life, your level of employment, your level of independence, be engaged. Show up to your city council meetings. Contact your legislators. Be out there so your voice can be heard, so that we, myself, can go out there and amplify that voice.
Great advice. And you've been busy. It's no wonder you're getting no sleep.
Yeah.
Look at all you're working on.
That's right.
Thanks so much for your time today.
No worries.
And we are here
my pleasure.
We are here to support you also. So look at us as a resource, and also our advocates as resources, and we will be there to provide any information or those stories that you're looking for.
That's right. And I can promise you all, I'll be out there advocating and fighting the fight to make improvements for all individuals with disabilities.
Thank you.